No way that any of us, I'm looking at you and myself, we're getting such a good, well-balanced, nutritionally well-balanced diet that chickens get. It is amazing what we've learned over the years of the finest nutrients, macronutrients, micronutrients, and the exact amount that they need and the balance between them that they need to optimize their health and their growth.
Hello and welcome to Unearthed, the AgriFutures podcast all about the people changing Australian agriculture. I'm Michael Thompson. This episode is all about the poultry industry, but I'm going to start by diving off on a little tangent, so please bear with me. Roger Federer was one of the all-time greats of tennis. He was world number one for 6 years and won 20 majors, including Wimbledon 8 times, which is pretty incredible, right? Well, what I find more incredible is that over the course of his 14-year professional career, Roger Federer only won 54% of the points he played. I mean, in school that was barely a pass mark, but 54% of points was enough to win 80% of his matches, making him a superstar. And that's what got me thinking about the difference between being a star performer and an absolute all-time legend. Chicken meat industry is already a star performer of Australian agriculture. It has a retail value of around $6.6 billion and employs more than 58,000 people. So how does an industry like that take its game to the next level? Just like Roger Federer, the team at AgriFutures took a leaf out of the elite sports coaching manual. In the same way that top-level athletes no longer get by with just one coach and instead have a whole team of coaches, nutritionists and physios all working together, AgriFutures has explored a new approach to chicken meat research.
We're talking about close to 48, 50 scientists involved. We also have international collaborators from 8 different top international universities.
The scientist responsible for delivering on this quest is leading nutritionist Professor Eugenie Rohrer from the Queensland Alliance for Agriculture and Food Innovation at the University of Queensland.
So chickens are highly performing beings, if you want. They have been selected for efficiency in terms of protein accretion. For me, what protein accretion is probably muscle to you, or thighs, or breast muscle, and that's what we have been genetically selecting these species for. And protein accretion, growth, muscle, then that means a especially high demand on protein and therefore amino acids. We usually talk about amino acids, which are the building blocks of the proteins. You and I, we also have a very specific needs, but are different. We're going to be running the 100 meters in less than 8 seconds. So, but our balance, our health also requires very specific nutritional needs. We sometimes we forget about this, but every specimen, if you want, have very specific nutritional needs. The chickens, they have very high demand of muscle accretion and therefore amino acids. That's their uniqueness.
Okay, so as part of the AgriFutures chicken meat program of research, you're really pulling apart that one element into lots of different questions, I guess. Tell us in a very general sense about those different lines of research and how they are designed to come together on that question of diet for poultry.
So when we talk about changing diets, when we talk about adapting diets to a certain organism, that means that they're going to be there. For sure, there are going to be a lot of implications. One is, well, where do we source our diet from? No? So I sort of have different demands. I change the ingredients that I use, therefore I need different sources. Number two, what's going to happen inside the animal? No, one thing is, all right, that's what gets in. The other thing is what happens inside. And the last thing is what gets out. And all of these changes, and that's, I think, reflected even in the title of our consortium, no? Nutrition, gut health, and environment. So yes, the implications go well beyond any specific feed ingredient, goes beyond the digestive physiology of the animal, and goes beyond up to, if you want, the external environment, the in-shed environment, and the sustainability itself.
Sarika Pandya is the AgriFutures manager for Levied Industries, which includes overseeing the nutrition, gut health, and environment program of research for the chicken meat industry. It's a mammoth body of work, a 5-year program bringing together researchers and industry into a single consortium.
So research projects through the program are traditionally or previously have been contracted in consultation with industry, and that goes right back to the development of what it is that we're asking for. So projects are called for in an open research call, and generally speaking, they tend to be contracted as sort of meat specific, one project addressing one research problem or research question.
Okay, and when you say open call, that means a competitive tender. So there's lots of parties all trying to get the same money.
That is correct. So the Chicken Meat Program of Research, or the consortium as it's called, is not only a very, very large project for a number of reasons. So it's large in terms of the number of contributors or number of people involved in delivering the project. It's large in terms of the duration of the overall project, but also, and most importantly, in the type of research problem it is trying to address. So there is a nice big overarching goal for this project, and rather than having just one research team with one research expertise or skill set addressing that question, there are different streams, or in this case programs, that contribute to answering that question and involve a number of different sort of transdisciplinary skills.
Okay, and so is that quite novel compared to how poultry research is done around the world? Is this a new thing?
It is. Oh, it's a bit of a world first. It hasn't been done before in the poultry space, and I think the other part that makes this project unique is that it's driven by Australian researchers that are delivering results and impact for Australian chicken meat producers, but there is a lot of there's expertise and contributions from international parties or partners.
Why did AgriFutures design the program in this way? What are the advantages of doing it as one giant collaborative program as opposed to individual small projects?
So understanding, I guess, that sustainable precision feeding question, which is what the overarching goal for the consortium is, requires not only that nutrition expertise, but there's expertise in gut or microbiome and gut health, as well as from an environmental or understanding the impacts on the litter. And so in this instance, the benefit of conducting this research as a consortium over a longer period of time rather than individual projects is that there are a lot of interdependencies between what one or a couple of programs in this consortium are conducting and the impact that it has on research conducted by another program. Traditionally, if you were to contract these projects individually, you'd almost have to stagger and wait for one piece of trial or research to complete before you sort of progress the next part. There's a separate procurement process that goes with that, and that just adds to the time in delivering the outcomes for industry. So in this instance, what we're able to do is all of these programs are able to talk to one another because they're under the same big project umbrella, and it's almost like you're able to apply the learnings real time and ensure that what you're delivering is actually fit for purpose for what the industry requires.
We had the analogy of chickens being like elite athletes with very precise diets and very precise needs. And if they were like athletes, I mean, you wouldn't just be focusing on one element of their performance at any one time, would you? You need that suite of things happening, your various coaches and trainers all working together, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the perfect analogy to explain what's happening in this consortium. And I think with that, hopefully this chicken is doing more than just crossing the road.
Yes, very good. Bringing together a group of specialist coaches is all well and good, but it means nothing if the players aren't involved in the team meetings. I mean, after all, they're the ones who have to deliver on the field.
Industry funds going into research should be directly applicable to industry.
Nick Rogers is General Manager for Nutrition for Ingham's Enterprises, the biggest poultry producer in Australia.
So we're approximately 30% of Australia's chicken meat industry. So our levies going into AgriFutures chicken meat program are an important source of funds for research into industry. We have a vested interest in ensuring that the research that goes on for the industry's benefit is also a benefit to Ingham's as a key levy payer. I think it's important that people like myself, other commercial nutritionists in industry today, have some sort of say in terms of what those diets that go into those experimental models look like. If they're not commercially viable, the aptness or applicability of the findings of the research are degraded. So I think it is important that when those experimental designs are being put together, particularly with respect to feed specifications or formulations, that we have some say in what they look like. Are they likely to be used or something like this in commercial production today is an important aspect when we're looking at the results of the work.
Critically, that input from producers and industry is resulting in better quality research and more practical solutions to be implemented on farm.
I think some of the initial work that was done when putting proposals together for the consortium was potentially more from an academic perspective of what industry viewed as important. I think as we've moved into the body of work, particularly on that nutrition side, having some input from people like myself, but other nutritionists in the industry, has enabled some of the designs and the direction of research to change to be more in line with what is important to industry rather than from an outsider's point of view looking in.
Yes, we believe that that's a great value in our view, that what we're going to be delivering is actually a solution that will be much easier to be adopted by industry than if we give them 10 solutions, right? Here's one from Eugenie and the other one from Mike and another one from Sonia and the other one from blah, 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 right?
Yeah.
Then you see their faces
It's
like
chaos if it goes like that. But so it's been quite critical to have industry in the tent from the get-go, hasn't it?
consortium has developed a unique model or a platform, if you want, of interaction between the different stakeholders. And I'm thinking of chicken meat producers sitting one next to the other with suppliers, with researchers, right? And that platform, that environment, it's creating such a rich dialogue between the different stakeholders of the poultry production that's what I said. I would have put that top of my list. That's the most incredible value of that consortium model.
Now, back to the main game. We've covered the roles of the league's administrators, the industry players, and the expert team of coaches. So what's going on out there on the field? Play officially gets underway with the mother hen.
We all know in humans that a pregnant mom, whatever a pregnant mom is eating, drinking, etc., will have an impact on the developing embryo. And therefore, the baby that it's born will have a number of characteristics, adaptations that can be easily be tracked back to mom's habits and particularly eating habits. Same happens with animals. When we think about the broilers, there's probably not a more vulnerable life phase of a broiler chick than the first days after they hatch. They come from an enclosed environment, very safe, lots of very good nutrients, so lots of very easy to digest, the yolk, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, bang, they're open to the outside world. Lots of challenges. One challenge, obviously, is nutrition, right? They are no longer relying on yolk and semi-liquid diets. We just give them feed and cereals and grains and soybeans and
So
stuff.
that's a massive change in just
Massive
one
change.
day.
And that's an impressive challenge for the digestive system. So the first thing, the chick after hatching, they will be probably looking at mom. Where is mom, and what mom was eating? And we're offering them something that is usually quite different to what mom was eating. So if we can help that vulnerable chick to find something that is familiar, I mean, and you're going to ask me, so how all they know is an egg, right?
Yeah.
How are they going to be familiar with what mom's eating? Well, through volatile compounds. So the volatile compounds that come from any cereal or any other ingredient in feed, those volatile compounds are actually transferred to the egg, to the egg compartments, to the albumin, to the yolk, and we can trace them back. So we know that the embryo, when it develops inside the egg, is developing within a certain environment, which includes what mom was eating.
So if she's eating good volatile compounds, that embryo is also going to be adapted to a degree to those same.
Exactly. So we
Right.
know that those volatile compounds will be having an impact on the chick. They are getting familiar, basically, with what mom was eating. And so by the time they hatch, they're like, well, where is mom's diet? Right? And
If you're changing the diet, it can obviously have very beneficial effects on the inside as well. Is it possible that that change of diet can also be stimulating some of those pathogens that are have a negative impact, such as E. coli or salmonella? Or how do you juggle those two halves of the equation?
absolutely. This is a very genuine question, and we do know that the nutrition has an impact on the microbiome, on the gut, not only the digestive development, but also the development of the gut microbiota. While I'm not going to claim to be a microbiologist, I don't want to lie, but it is true that there is a very direct link between what we're feeding the chick and what microbiota is being developed, especially in these early stages.
Soy meal can account for as much as 30% of the diet for a young bird, which reduces over time to as little as 15% for older chickens.
And we are trying to reduce the dependence on soybean meal, but just be aware that today there's not real a second soybean meal that we can easily substitute. So that's why
Something like canola is not exact. It's not a like for like.
no. So that's why we need a consortium.
Yeah.
We need a lot of research, and how can we really? That's an unsolvable puzzle, and we need to put so much energy into research.
And at the heart of that riddle is also the question of sustainability that you pointed to, and how far that soy meal has to travel to get to our poultry farms, isn't it?
Exactly, and in fact, that might be part of what you're just referring to is probably part of the solution, because it comes back to us as consumers, as a society. How much are we willing to value that sustainability aspect, right? Because at the end of the day, can I make a diet that has no soybean? Probably yes, but the cost will be higher, right? So are we willing to trade off sustainability for a bit of extra cost in our chicken thighs, right? That's a genuine question to answer. So is it possible? Yes, it is. At what cost? Oh, my friend.
And are people willing to pay it?
Are we as consumers willing to pay?
Both the big picture and the small details are incredibly important to Nick Rogers. He's at the pointy end of decisions about how to provide Ingham's flocks with a precise, healthy diet, delivering maximum growth at the lowest cost, all while keeping an eye on the sustainability of those feed supplies and the company's social license.
The use of other protein meals than soy is of importance to us. Living on the other side of the world from where soy is produced leaves us susceptible to supply chain risk in ensuring that we can feed our chickens day to day. It also, at this stage, has quite a large land use change component to its environmental footprint, which is not necessarily good for the sustainability metrics of animal feeding, particularly poultry feed. So looking at what we can use local in terms of a local sourced protein meal or protein source in place of soy meal de-risks our supply chain somewhat from the fluctuations in soy supply that could result from geopolitical issues and the likes of South American politics. But also, if there is a crop failure in South America, that increases the price of soy that we can access, and looking at alternative protein meals to soy of Australian origin, and what those limits might look like in commercial poultry nutrition is a benefit to us.
It's an interesting challenge because consumers will buy on price, but up to a point until you lose your social license. So balancing that's very, very challenging. You mentioned the deforestation question, and obviously there's regulations coming out of Europe which could shake up trade in that space out of South America. But it also must have, with the volume of food miles that soy is being transported to get here, implications for your carbon accounting as individual companies and as an industry as well.
It does. If we could do away with importing raw materials, bulk raw materials into our feed, we would. Again, that comes back to what becomes the most economical way of producing poultry feed to meet their nutrient requirements. At this stage, importing something from the other side of the world, albeit only a portion of our feed, is still the most economical way to do it. As we move to reducing our carbon footprint year on year, those Scope 3 emissions are really what we're talking about here, that becomes more and more important. So can we do away with soy altogether, having to import it from overseas, whether that be North America or South America, the two places where we're approved to import, or the suppliers of soy in Australia are approved to import from, and looking to local raw materials in preference is, I think, important. That's part of the work that's being done by the consortium today.
So what are the alternatives that have been identified so far?
So they're existing raw materials that we've been able to use for quite some time. Pulse grains and other oilseed meals produced in Australia, particularly canola meal, cottonseed meal, sunflower meal, safflower meal. Those oilseed products that are a co-product of producing oils from those grains or those oilseeds. Pulse grains such as field peas, lupins, faba beans, those sorts of raw materials that are relatively high in protein, but still, compared to soy, quite a lot lower. Those sorts of raw materials add bulk, but they are a source of energy that perhaps that we don't get from things like soy. Other products that are good sources of protein that can be used in poultry feed include meat and bone meal, a co-product of the red meat industry. So that's an important part of what we do.
But in this finely tuned system, the smallest tweak to the central ingredient in the diet can have big implications for other elements of the production process.
One of the really important objectives of the consortium is trying to find a balance between nourishing the chicken and nourishing the microbiota. And that's quite a novel concept, if you want, in itself. How much can I spare of the main diet of the chicken? How much can I spare for the microbiota? Where is that equilibrium? So I'm feeding and I'm getting the chicken to grow efficiently and fast, etc. But also I need to think about a specific portion of that diet that I want to be available to develop a healthy microbiota.
So, but why is that important, though? Is it as simple as saying that if you've got a healthy biota, you've got a healthy chicken?
There's certainly a high correlation. We need to make sure that the chicken itself, that day old vulnerable chicken, is as little vulnerable as possible. And that means improving the development of the digestive system itself. We know that the day one chicken has somehow immature digestive system, immature immune system, And it takes a number of days, even weeks. Thinking of the immune system, we're accepting that it takes 10 to 14 days to have a really well developed immune system in the chicken. Probably the digestive system is not far from that. So what can we do to get that day one chick as well developed in terms of digestive and immune systems as possible? And that goes back to intervening, if you want, through maternal diets.
But tell me, what goes in must also come out. What does all this mean for the shed manager and the environment that they're living in?
We mentioned decreasing the reliance on soybean meal, and how is that impacting what goes out, and that in-shed environment is actually crucial, because as you know, the quality of the litter will bite back if it's not appropriate. So all these moisture, humidity, ammonia, etc., that will be inevitably present in the litter. We need to make sure that we're optimizing that environment for a better outcome of growth and performance of the chicken. A core value of the consortium, which is the integration. The integration of different areas of expertise, the integration of different outcomes that we are already delivering, but in themselves could be seen as different silos. Now, a crucial aspect of the consortium is actually the integration of those results.
But bringing together that number of people and organisations, each with their own goals and ways of working, isn't an easy task.
We all have our priorities and so on and so forth. But certainly the consortium is bridging that gap. I am 100% sure that gap, if it's not definitely solved, we keep working on it, but it does offer a very good platform to close those gaps and make sure that there is an enrichment and a synergy between the two ecosystems.
I was going to say communication is critical to all of that, and you must spend quite a bit of time, invest a lot of time in managing relationships too, which often gets overlooked in the way that people think about research, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you're not biased. Communication. I testify. You're not
Yes.
biased. Communications.
I wholeheartedly agree. Communications is very important.
It's not going to take a lot of effort to convince you. I know that.
The program is also investing in training a group of PhD students to ensure that the next generation of poultry researchers and industry leaders continue to work with a mindset focused on industry benefit through collaboration.
The PhD program is also relatively a bit more complex than a standard PhD program, because we're trying to integrate them really with all the stakeholders. They are part of that dialogue with industry. The industry placement programs for our students have several reasons to be very important. One, of course, is exposing the students to industries. Number one. Number two is exposing industries to our students and try to convince them, attract them into a long-term relationship with industry, eventually to stay in our industry and certainly be part of the future.
So not to put too fine a point on it, but, researchers have been criticised, stereotyped as living in ivory towers and being detached from reality. But these PhD students, their normal now is working hand in hand with industry, and that is how they will think of doing research from this day forth, won't it?
Absolutely. Look, I would probably say I've never been sitting in an ivory tower myself. And
I've never even seen one. I don't know what they look like.
I think actually that's a bit of a legend.
Ingham's is one of the industry partners, which will be interning a PhD researcher for 3 months.
I think it's very important that early career researchers or people leaving their postgraduate degrees or undergraduate degrees, in fact, coming to industry, to have an idea of what happens in industry. If they intend to be part of industry, working in the commercial side rather than the academic side, they'll gain that experience over time. Giving them a taste before they enter the workforce enables them to decide where they want to be in industry. but probably equally, if not more importantly, for academics intending to stay in academia or research, to have an understanding of what's important to industry, how it works, helps them to understand, how to do their research as they go forward for industry's benefit.
Our big match has just reached half-time in the 5-year program of research. The success of what's been built so far is creating plenty of excitement for what's still to come in the future.
Yeah, all of the aspects of the consortium's work are a benefit to, or stand to benefit Inghams. My personal interest is in nutrition and gut health, but the environmental component of that is going to be an ever-present part of our industry and the way we do things going forward. So ensuring that all three things are taken into consideration, because they are linked, is important for us as a business, so that those outcomes are of benefit to not only us now, but the industry moving forward into the next 5 or 10 years.
That's the exciting thing about this consortium. And when it comes to research in general, it's often a case of research super players around the world leading the way. And in this instance, it's the Australian chicken meat industry that's leading the way. And we've invited other international parties to come and have a seat at the table so that they can see how our levy payers' investment can go that extra mile, can deliver long-term and sustainable benefits for the industry. And hopefully this will be something that once we finish the project, that they go, wow, there's these great results that have been delivered out of this program. Let's use that to shape what we're doing in our space. And I think it's a fantastic unwritten return on investment.
While there's still a long way to go for the AgriFutures chicken meat program, the form is now on the board. Australia's industry is ready to go to the next level through a focus on precision, partnerships and improved performance across nutrition, gut health and the environment. Another industry that has risen to great heights in a difficult operating environment is Australia's rice sector. Like poultry, it's been challenged to reduce its environmental impact while striving to help feed a growing global population. Australia's rice growers recently let loose in Leeton, New South Wales to celebrate 100 years of commercial production in this country. I caught up with some of the delegates in attendance, and I've got to say there was plenty of optimism for the next century ahead, thanks to new innovations in plant breeding, crop agronomy, and new approaches to water use efficiency that are now coming into practice. I'm going to tell you all about that next time on Unearthed, the People Changing Australian Agriculture, a podcast from AgriFutures Australia.